you ganky knob!
Hello, Johnny from Eurogamer here, and this is Borderlands 3. I played about an hour and a half of Gearbox's sequel, and I'm pleased to say I really enjoyed myself. Despite how much loot shooters have changed from the early days of Borderlands, thanks to the likes of Destiny and The Division, Borderlands 3 doesn't try and reinvent itself. Instead, it doubles down on what made it good in the first place, and I think that was a really smart decision. In short, it's a really fun game to play. Just because they haven't changed the original formula, however, doesn't mean there aren't a few new things in the mix. I've rounded up 18 of them, in fact, so without any further ado, here come 18 new things in Borderlands 3. First up, new characters. We've only seen 2 playable characters thus far, but the good news is that they are extremely strong. I don't know about you, but with Borderlands the pre-sequel, I felt the playable characters were a bit too familiar, a bit samey. Thankfully, that's not the case here, even if one of them, Amara, is a siren. I spent my time playing as Zane the Operative, who is brilliantly, intensely Irish. He's a gruff, tough son of a gun who just wants to know when he's next going to get to enjoy a lovely pint, so it's safe to say he's a man after my own heart.
I hear ya. What I wouldn't do for a pint right now.
Hey, we've all got our vices.
Great as that is, mind you, the best thing about Zane has to be the skills he gets to employ in combat, and this is actually one of the games in which Borderlands has changed most drastically. Instead of giving characters one skill to activate and a choice of skill trees with different buffs, each character now has 3, count 'em, 3 skills to choose from. You have to pick which one to have active, of course, but either way it makes for a hell of a lot of variety. Zane, for example, can deploy a shield, or he can pop out a little sentry drone that will target whatever enemy you tell it to, or he can pop out a little decoy of himself, a bit like Mirage in Apex Legends. The best bit about this last skill is that each time you pop out a decoy, you can change positions with it. This is really useful for, say, avoiding a big chunk of incoming damage, or setting up a sneaky flank. You can only swap with each decoy once, but it's still immensely satisfying. And the best bit about Zane is that, as the operative, he can actually have 2 skills active at any one time, rather than just the one, although that does render him unable to use grenades. For my money though, the versatility the 2 skills offer is well worth the sacrifice. It's left me really wanting to play Zane a whole bunch more, but I'm also excited to see what the other characters have on offer. The overhaul of the skill system doesn't stop there either. The skill trees now have extra little add-ons called augments. Once you get far enough down a skill tree, basically you can unlock little class augmentations that customize your character further, kind of similar to the talents you may remember from Call of Duty. For example, I unlocked one for Zane that sent out a cryo-nova from me and my decoy anytime we switched places, but there was also one that would recharge my shield whenever the decoy took damage. So while these augments aren't exactly earth-shatteringly significant, they do at least let you tailor your character toward a certain build, whether that's more aggressive or more focused around survivability. Like I said, Borderlands 3 is all about making things versatile. And talking of versatility, the guns have also got some exciting new bells and whistles for you to tinker with, these coming in the form of alternate fire modes. Some, but not all of the guns you pick up in Borderlands 3 will have an alternate fire option. I saw one that toggled between burst fire and full auto, and another gun that had a grenade launcher on the underside of the barrel, but thankfully there were some more exotic ones in the mix as well. Like giving a gun 2 elemental damage types and allowing you to toggle between them at will, which was extremely useful when coming up against enemies with certain damage resistance types. It was just a matter of swapping to the other elemental type rather than changing guns entirely. There was also an alternate fire mode that allowed you to tag an enemy, meaning that all subsequent shots from that gun would automatically travel to the same place, no matter where you were aiming. Basically, it's the gun from the 5th element, and I bloody love it. Borderlands 3 is all about giving you more tactical options in firefights, in other words, and it works really well. The next item on our list of new things in Borderlands 3 is brand new NPCs. While there are plenty of familiar faces in BL3, including Lilith, who is now commander of the Crimson Raiders, Zero, who still likes to speak in haiku, Marcus, Moxie and Dr. Tannis, there are some new characters to get to know in the world as well. During my hands-on time, I ended up doing a bunch of missions with Lorelei, a plucky English woman who really likes creative swearing.
Solid kill, Vault Hunter. That guy was a real wank muffin. Now grab the power core.
To be honest, I thought her gore blimey governor accent would grate on me, but she's actually a pretty great character. And for those of you who like to play Borderlands in single player, you weirdos, you'll be pleased to know that NPCs can now revive you when you get downed, so you no longer have to scramble quite so frantically to get a second wind kill when you're in fight for your life mode. Handy. Of course, you can't have a cast of new player characters and NPCs without at least a few new enemies, and thankfully Borderlands 3 delivers there as well. Alongside shady new antagonists, the Calypso twins, there are also plenty of new enemy types to contend with, including our first look at Maliwan units. Previously, Maliwan was just a faceless weapons manufacturer, but now we get to see what their actual employees are like for the first time. Robots galore, along with some sneaky assault troopers, basically. There are also some new creepy crawlies to contend with, which is a nice change of pace, and makes a lot of sense when you consider the next thing that's new about Borderlands 3, multiple worlds. If you're particularly eagle-eyed, you might have been able to work out from this gameplay capture that the portion of Borderlands 3 I played wasn't actually set on Pandora. Pandora does feature, you'll be pleased to hear, but the game actually spans several different planets, taking you on an interstellar journey for the very first time. The planet we explored is called Promethea, although it's quite similar to Pandora in the sense it's got loads of guns on it and scores of things that really need shooting. We don't know yet exactly how many worlds will be in Borderlands 3, but from a trailer that was shown at the end of the presentation, it looks like there are going to be a lot of different environments to explore, which is certainly no bad thing. Of course, travelling between planets is quite a tricky business if you find yourself without the next thing on our list, which is to say a bloody massive spaceship. Unfortunately, I don't have capture of this, but in essence, Sanctuary is back, operating as the game's hub world in pretty much the exact same way it has in previous titles. This time round, however, it's not a city, nor is it a floating city in the sky, but it's a giant spaceship, complete with drop pod, medbay, and even some personal, customizable quarters for you. There's also a handy new feature that allows you to reclaim any dropped items or weapons you failed to pick up in the field, kind of like a really dangerous lost and found. And naturally, being a spaceship, Sanctuary allows you to travel to new systems and seek out strange new worlds, new civilizations, and a bunch more loot to scoop up into your inventory. Delightful. Of course, anyone who's played Borderlands with friends will know that scooping up loot doesn't always go to plan, mostly when someone else has run in and nicked it off you. Thankfully, you don't need to worry about that anymore, thanks to the new loot instancing system. In short, Borderlands 3 now shows loot to players in the same way games like Destiny and The Division do, which is to say that it's instanced individually for each player, meaning there's no great rush to grab the goodies before anybody else. Loot is also tailored to your level, as are the enemies, so a level 25 player can play with a level 4 player, and they'll both be getting decent loot that's appropriate to their current level. This is pretty standard across loot shooters, of course, but it's the first time we've seen it in Borderlands specifically, and frankly, I think it's a welcome addition. If you disagree, however, there's no need to worry. These options can be toggled, so if you want to try power leveling someone, or nicking the good loot from right under their nose, then you still can. The next few things on our list of innovations in Borderlands 3 are all about getting around, which has seen some interesting tweaks for the new sequel. Firstly, you can now slide while sprinting, a la Apex Legends, Titanfall 2 or Call of Duty, meaning you can slide out of cover and riddle your enemies with bullets while gliding around on your ass to your heart's content. It really helps Borderlands feel like a faster game and makes moving around the battlefield a lot more enjoyable. Mantling is also in the mix, helping you to reach high ledges where previously only a jump would suffice. On the transportation side, there's a brand new vehicle called a Cyclone. It's basically a massive wheel you sit inside, and it's really, really manoeuvrable. It also looks like a Skaven Doom wheel from Warhammer, which personally I found very satisfying. The next thing that's new, and I am particularly excited about this one, is a decent bloody mini-map. Finally, the map in Borderlands is easy to follow in terms of which paths are above others and which ones are below, letting you navigate with greater ease than ever before. I absolutely hated the minimap in Borderlands, Borderlands 2 and Borderlands the pre-sequel, and now, finally, it's something I enjoy. I am absolutely delighted. But that's enough about cartography for now. Let's get back to talking about killing things. Another new thing to come to Borderlands for the first time is destructible cover. All those flimsy barricades that pesky enemies like to hide behind can now be shot to pieces, meaning you don't always have to go on a big flank in order to take somebody out. In addition, barrels can now be punted towards the enemy with a melee attack, meaning if that bad guy is just slightly out of the would-be blast radius on an explosive barrel, you can just shove it toward them before shooting it and teaching them a valuable lesson about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The option to punt a barrel across the room will doubtless come in handy when facing off against the next new thing to come to Borderlands 3, which is more boss fights. Lots more of them, to be specific. Presenting to the crowd at the hands-on event, Randy Pitchford basically said the studio really loves the boss fights in Borderlands, so they've decided to throw in a bunch more. The boss fight I did during my hands-on time against a freakish enemy called Gigabrain wasn't especially challenging, but it definitely was disgusting, so at least that's something. Right, just 2 things left on our little list, and the penultimate one is lovely new lighting. I know it may sound a bit boring, but hopefully over the course of this video so far, you've managed to see for yourself that Borderlands 3 is bloody gorgeous. The cel-shaded visuals are still very much a part of the package, but from the weapons, to the ammo, to the enemies, all of the game's models now look more tangible, more like actual physical objects rather than blocks with cel-shaded skins slapped over them. The way the light glances off them is no small part in that, and, as far as I'm concerned, it looks great. I will say that I was playing on a fairly beefy AMD machine, Gearbox obviously trying to show off the game in the best possible light, but even if we don't know how it looks on lower spec PCs or on consoles just yet, there's no denying it's a looker. And very finally, emotes are coming to Borderlands 3. Of course they are. It is a loot shooter, after all. I didn't get to try them for myself, so while I wish I could show you a couple, I can't. Sorry about that. But hey, there you go. That was 18 new things in Borderlands 3. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll have more on Borderlands 3 in just a couple of days, so please keep your eyes on the channel. You won't want to miss it. Hopefully you found this video interesting. If you did, there are loads more from Eurogamer for you to check out, so do give one of those a click. Do like, subscribe, and ring the bell icon so you don't miss anything else from us, but most importantly, thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely day. Goodbye.
I've touched worse.